ஏதன் கண்ணே நிலையாகி இருந்திடும் உலகம் எல்லாம் எதனதெல்லாம் எதனின்று அனைத்துலகும் எழுமோ மற்றிவையாவும் எதன் பொருட்டாம் எதனாலும் வையமெல்லாம் எழுந்திடும் எல்லாமும் எதுவே ஆகும் அதுதானே உளபொருளாம் சத்தியமாம் அச்சொருவம் அகத்தில் வைப்பாம். Namo Ramana. With Bhagavan's immense grace, we have come to the last verse on Nur Kalvi Prakaranam, or the verses on the dangers of scriptural vasana or vasana towards fame. So, I'm sorry, this is the penultimate verse. One more verse is there, 38, which we will have to see in the next week. This is a verse from Sadashiva Brahmendra, translated by Bhagavan. And Sadashiva Brahmendra has drawn on his own life and Anubandham to give this caution to all sadhakas. Ella ulagum துரும்பாயினும் மறைகள் எல்லாமே கைக்குள் இருந்தாலும் ஒல்லா புகழ்ச்சியாம் வேசிவசம் புக்காரடிமை அகலவிடல் அம்மாரிது. எல்லா உலகும் துரும்பாயினும் மறைகள் எல்லாமே கைக்குள் இருந்தாலும் ஒல்லா புகழ்ச்சியாம் வேசிவசம் புக்காரடிமை அகலவிடல் அம்மாரிது. Namo Ramana. Before we go into the verse, a very brief look at what Sadashiva Brahmendra is blessing us with. He was born in Kumbakonam to parents who were already very spiritual, but they were Kudumbis, and though Sadashiva's inclination was towards scriptures, they got him married in the 17th year itself. But true to his inclination, he was more interested in the scriptures, and he had the great blessing of being under gurus like Sridhara Iyyaval, and later Paramashrivendra Saraswati was his guru, who is under reference under this verse, Paramashivendra Saraswati. Now, Sadashiva is supposed to have learned his Vedas from, along with another guru, Ramabhadracharya, I think, along with another guru from Paramashivendra Saraswati. He has learned the Vedas and he has learned the Advaita Tattva so thoroughly that he could not overcome the inclination to get into arguments and defeat others. And his understanding, his spiritual anubhava, and more importantly, the vasanas that remained in the intellect drove him to silence those who are arguing with him thoroughly. Great scholars, great pandits, great mahans of reputation in the local areas were all ashamed, were all thoroughly put to shame, while the fame of Sadashiva kept on increasing. The more he defeated, the more his fame increased. More were the people who were suffering, great pandits, who also fell into this game of argument. It so happened that one of those defeated ones went and reported the matter to Paramashivendra, and Paramashivendra is supposed to have condemned Sadashiva Brahmendra as you are now putting all great people to Mauna. You are successfully silencing many great ones. When are you going to become silent? You are being used as the instrument so that others' garva will come down. When is your garva going to come down? And hearing that, Sadashiva immediately takes to complete silence. He says that from this point, Mauna is the only thing I am going to observe. And with that, my ego, my garvam, my pride, and the very seeking of fame is now put to dust. And from there begins the great work of the Advaita Guru, who is Avaduta Guru, and who is interred. His Samadhi is in Nerur. His Samadhi is also supposed to be in Pudukkottai and Karachi. But suffice to say for this verse that the Guru Upadesham, which we are going to see in verse number 39, the importance of Guru, it comes and finally delivers that death knell to the ego, which is so thoroughly enjoying, thoroughly taking the pleasure of fame and the pleasure of seeing other great ones bite the dust. Is it happiness at all to derive happiness in the failure of others? It is said that Vivekananda, when in US, when he is not being able to be admitted to some place, I think it's a restaurant, and it suggested to him that one of the colors can be pulled out and he can be given a place. He says, my rice should never be at the fall of another. The rice should be incomparable, should be by itself. Now, that understanding comes to the Great One, and he blesses us with this verse. The verse again, Ella ulahum turumbayil. Even when one has renounced money, land, all other pleasures of this world, and the entire world is now merely dust, merely a small iron remnant, the ferric oxide, that's all. One turumbu before such a one. And not only that, Ella ulahum turumbayinum, even when all worlds have now become merely a dust, Maraigal ellame kaikul irundalum. It is exactly the situation where Sadashiva was there. We found that renunciation was the hallmark of his life, and with the blessing of the great ones, he had learned the scriptures inside out. So it is himself that he is describing. Ella ulahum turumbayinum maraigal ellame, all the scriptures kaikul irundalum. It is just within one's fist, the hastamalaka. It is all the scriptures are so clear that it is as though it is a fruit in one's hand. Polla pugurchiyam vesivasam pukkar. The one who has not freed himself from this lady, not so rightful lady, called fame, in whose clutches one still remains, though the whole worlds are all dust now, and all the scriptures, whatever is to be learned, is now within one's own fist, but one has not given up the numbers. That satsang has so many people. My satsang has only this many people. I have struggled for 20 years. Why are people not listening to me? All these are the thoughts that come for the one who is running after success. எல்லா மறைகள் கைக்குள் இருந்தாலும் எல்லாம் புகழ்ச்சியாம். For the flattery, praise, fame, புகழ்ச்சி can be interpreted as the fame, or at the day-to-day level as flattery or praise. Here the pugarchi is called by a very negative terminology as a lady whose character is not so good. Vesivasam pukkar, because she is so fleeting. They don't have any commitment to anyone. The pugarchi doesn't have commitment to anyone. It is there with you for a moment. The next moment somebody else says something, or the world says you are not a good person, and that whole thing structure comes tumbling down. Pugarchiyam vesivasam pukkar adimai ahala vidal amma ariyadu. That slavery to this lady called pugarchi, the fame or flattery, that slavery is very difficult to escape. And in Sadashiva's case, his Guru Bhakti, which we are going to see in 39, which could not come from anyone else, because everyone else is being defeated. You are greater than everyone. Akka will tell us that she has a guru who has told that the very same arguments which you make for having success can be turned around, and the very same arguments can be using the very same logic used to describe the other side of the case, and you can be defeated. That is the flimsiness of logic, and based on logic we say we have won over an argument, we have put our case through. That's why you will find in Ramanasramam that whoever puts any comment, there will only be Namo Ramana. Yeah. There is nothing to tell against. What is there to tell against? That is one point of view. Let there be another point of view. Let there be yet another point of view. If you want to pick, you can pick on the best of the comments. Oh, what is this? Or what is that word? Because that is the nature of logic. And therefore the entire process of argumentation and defeat and winning and fame becomes meaningless. But such a meaningless activity becomes the point where the great one gets enslaved. Venkateshji used to tell this story of the washerman and the donkey and the sage. The washerman and the donkey, one day while taking the donkey to the place of washing, the washerman loses the hagga, the rope, and he is worried. How is he going to get to sleep? Because the house is quite far away. He wants to make the trudge next morning. So he is worried how to tie the donkey down. That is the only asset he has. And a saint passing that way sees his worried look and asks, what is the problem? And the man says, see sir, I have lost my rope and I don't know how to tie down the donkey. Then the master says, why do you worry? Just go in front of the donkey and act as though you are tying the rope to his neck and to the tree. It will remain there only. And the washerman does that, and the donkey is safely there in the morning. And in the morning, the man happily keeps the load on the donkey and says, hey, get up, we'll go. But the donkey doesn't move. And once again there is worry. And the washerman asks the saint what to do. The saint says, why, you tied it down yesterday, didn't you? Now you will have to go and remove it. Then only it will understand it is no more bound and it will raise income. So he goes through that again goes to the tree and removes the knot, goes to the donkey and removes the knot from its neck, the imaginary knot, of course. And finally, the donkey gets up and carries the load. This is more or less, he would tell it much better, but this is more or less the story that is there. So though fame itself is based on whatever we said, such flimsy grounds, it can floor the greatest of beings who have completely renounced everything else and who have got all the scriptures in their hand. Even such ones can be floored by this fame, which is so subtle and pleasure-giving and illusory, says the verse. To sum it up, even though a sadhaka, has renounced the entire worlds and has mastered the scriptures, if he has not freed himself from the clutches of fame, then except with Guru Kripa, except with the grace of the Great One, let that go. Without that, this kind of bondage is so difficult to get out of, because you feel you are greater than everyone. You don't listen to anyone. You are out of the help from everybody. Only your Guru, if you have that last remnant of bhakti towards Guru, that can save you, is the life and story captured by Sadashiva Brahmendra for us. That whatever you may be, don't run after fame. And we can see this exactly happen in Swami Rama's case. When Swami Rama, in his book Himalayan Masters, he writes his account of his visit to Ramana. He says Ramana Maharshi. And at that time, he is the Shankaracharya of one of the mutts in, I suppose, northeast, one of the mutts in the northeast. He is the Shankaracharya, he is the head of the mutt. And he comes and he completely soaks himself in the Mauna Sannidhi of Bhagavan, in that silence of Bhagavan. And I am only paraphrasing. That particular, the articles on him meeting other gurus run to many pages. But the article on Ramana, if I remember right, was only for 2 sides. But its content was of the highest order of praise to any guru by another future guru. He is not yet the complete guru that he wants to be. He is Shankaracharya, and he says his mind was attached to that post, attached to that calling, attached to the requirements of the mud, its increase, its rise, its spread, its necessity to be glorious. All that is still there in his mind. And he says his visits to Ramana made him inquire into that. And the first thing he does is goes back to his mud and submits his resignation and comes out and continues his sadhana. This is more or less what he says in his account. That's an account I had read maybe 20 years ago from a book given by a friend. But Ramana is that article's name, and just the Mauna Sannidhi of the Guru Kripa, it frees Swami Rama from that drudgery, from that already he is the head of the mud. So very few people can question him on his scriptural knowledge. Very few people can question him on his power of renunciation. He has reached already the stage where the verse is indicating, but the necessity to run after fame has not gone, and that is brought out by the Sannidhi of Bhagavan. And the first thing he does is goes and resigns, and he continues his sadhana. That was the benefit I had in visiting Ramana, says Swami Rama. We go into the contents of this verse. Now, how is it that the fame, it remains as the last or the one of the final frontiers for a sadhaka? We have umpteen number of examples of those who have come into the spiritual area, those who have grown in other areas, but fall prey to this fame, fall prey to the numbers, fall prey to seeking a larger crowd. But what is it in fame that makes us run after it? Is that we find that the pleasure, the happiness we get out of it is very subtle. Is in the not in the gross area of like a food-like pleasure, like somebody who is inquiring into what food I am attached to will be able to immediately detect, oh, these are the foods I am attached to, because there is a craving for that particular food to appease the hunger. So a sensory pleasure is easy to detect. An emotion, a feeling of, let's say, anger or jealousy or hatred, or let's say even an anxiety, it can be detected if one is aware of the breath, if one is aware of irregularities of the breath. Bhagavan says all emotional paroxysms are attended with the irregularity of breath. So if one is aware of the breath movements, one is able to understand most of the emotional disturbances that one gets. So the emotional habits of seeking certain kinds of things can be detected too if one is aware of the breath. There are some thought modes, there are some thought habits which are really repetitive and gross, and one can detect it by the very pain of repetition. When those thoughts come again and again, let's say we have fear of public speaking or fear of chanting something in public. That fear can be, that thought of fear can be easily detected when you are alone, because when you are preparing for a program, that fear thought will come, and that will be quite strong enough for one to detect, oh, I am getting a thought of fear of performance, and one can free from himself that. Or let's say one has already attained some level of proficiency in singing, then the thought of performing well, I am going to perform well, may come, but the thought of fame is so subtle that that it is so intellectual that it remains hidden even from great ones who have renounced all the worlds and those who have all the scriptures in hand, because it is an intellectual pleasure. It's a number game where one has not lost the importance of the praise. And when you go into the psychological background of praise, we find that it arises from a basic discontent with oneself. The modern psychologists say, why does a cinema person, or why does a drama person, or why does an artist, or why does a scientist who wants to expose himself, or why does a spiritual person, why does he seek fame from others? Why does he seek fame from a community? Because these are questions which will remain till the end, and it cannot be proved to others that you are not seeking fame. There will be no way others can come and tell your conscience is clear. Perhaps they will always be doubting in your favor that you are doing certain things for fame only. But this has to be looked at by oneself, and that subtlety of seeking fame, the approval from others, is because Bhagavan says that the subtle body is enjoying that subtle pleasure. The subtle body which is still remaining, it is called as Ativahika Sharira. That subtle body is still remaining, and it is seeking the subtle pleasure of approval from many. Now, psychologically they say, why people seek fame is that their work gets done very easily. They go to a queue, there it is done easily. When they are presenting an argument, it is very easily accepted. In our group, if we say Dilipji, me, or Venkateshji or Akka say something, you will find that there is easy acceptance. There won't be much of questioning from the other group. That itself will be the principle which puts us down. That we take it for granted that okay, whatever I say, it goes. Now that comfort that chalega, that whatever I say based on the fame and reputation I have built, I can tell whatever I want without attention. So these are the psychological basis. They say that wherever they go, they get first priority. The queues are less, the approval is more, and whatever they say, there is no need or the pressure of proving is not there. And of course, the pleasure that is there for the ego. Gandhiji says when he was going around India to collect everyone's meditation on freedom, that he was saying to the Congress people, if 300, 400 of us keep meditating on the freedom of India, it's not going to work. The meditation of all the citizens should be gathered. All of them should feel the need for freedom. When they all start meditating, our strength will be there. And that's the purpose why he goes all around India. And he says in Bihar, in one particular station, when his train enters, he says there are about 1 lakh of people. In those days, the population was not that much. But even then, he writes, the whole platform was overflowing with people. And he says, I could see my ego rise in pleasure, in that fame that I had generated. I could see my ego rise. Now, when somebody sees the ego rise, that means they are aware of the danger of fame. We should not take it that it is a lower state of himself he is describing in its my experiments with truth. There he is actually revealing to us his meditational state, that he is able to observe, he is able to observe the pull of that vesi, of that the fame that is pulling the ego, and he is able to observe it. And probably that he doesn't write further whether he was able to quell the ego from that. But that is good enough, I suppose, that how such a meditative person can fall, if inattentive, can fall prey to the pull of praise. Now, something about the Ativahika Sharira, that so far as Ativahika Sharira is there, we are going to have this pull of fame. 2 ways in which Bhagavan teaches us to avert this pull of fame. Let us see the 2 ways. The 2 ways are the famous surrender and the Atmavicharam. First, surrender. In letters, there is an article of Bhagavan translating the Atma Bodha, and such a beautiful article written by our Suri Nagama, wonderful content, and Bhagavan translates all the verses, and he is now remarking how the process went on inside him. Now, we should view that Bhagavan is a writer, he's an artist, he has created a poem, he has created a translation in scripture, and every potential of falling to fame is there, and Bhagavan is teaching us how to avoid that, how to avoid the falling prey to fame. And Bhagavan says the process that's happening inside him. He says, first of all, that there is no desire to write. There is no desire to speak. There is no desire to conduct a class. There is no desire to conduct an Atma-Vichara session. He says, you should be anchored in that state. Your anchor should be in that state of complete surrender to God. Complete surrender to God, where there is no desire to do his seva also. That identity allows you to feel the push of God. He says the Atma Bodha verses are coming and standing in front of him. When you have no desire, and it is not something beyond the sadhakas that he is suggesting there. When you are surrendered to Bhagavan, understanding that the Chinmaya is there, we don't need to think. Then that surrender state is there. Then the Atma Bodha comes and stands in front of him, he says. The verses are coming and standing in front of me, and I am merely copying them down. So the feeling is that this has already been written. Excuse me. The feeling of Bhagavan, which he conveys to us through Surya Nagama, is that the verses have already been written. It is as though somebody has already written and I am merely copying down what that writing is. He is attributing that whole work to God. God having already written that and commanding Bhagavan to write it down. This is the surrender way he is teaching us. And he narrates the beautiful episode of Swami Jagannath coming into the court and challenging the poet, the great poet of Gita Govindam, the poet Jayadeva. The author, the poet, the writer, Surya Nagama continues, Bhagavan narrating that story. He says that this is somewhat like what happened to Jayadeva, that if I claim I am translating the Atma Bodha, somebody else would come and claim it later because it was already written. It is merely coming in front of me and I'm copying down. There was no desire. Somebody has written it. I am merely taking it down. This is exactly, it is going to happen that if I put that Ramana has written this, somebody else may come and claim tomorrow. Exactly as what happened in the court for Swami Jayadeva, he says. And what is the story? The story is that Gita Govindam has been completed. The work is ready for publishing. And the humble poet has given it to the king. And when it is to be published, the Swami of Jagannath Puri, Mahavishnu, he comes as a Brahmin and he enters the court. And Jayadeva, it is said, he is humbly holding on to the book. And after the due pranams to the king, the Brahmin, he plucks the book out of the hand of Jayadeva and, oh, you are launching this book? What is there in it? He says, oh, it is Gita Govindam. Oh, how can you launch it? When I already know what is there inside it. It is not a new work. How can it be a new work? I know the verses inside. And Jayadeva says humbly, no, Swami, it has been written for the first time. Nobody knows. And that is why we are putting it for publication for everyone. Then the Brahmin says, come, compete with me in the Vedas. Are you eligible to write such a work? Then Jayadeva says, no, Swami. Great ones like you should bless us. There is no point in arguing on any topic with you. I am not for that. Then the Swami of Puri, he says, oh, you don't want to discuss Vedas with me? Let us see what you have written. You are saying it is being published. See this verse. This verse, doesn't it run like this? This verse, doesn't it run like this? And he starts narrating, chanting the verses inside the Gita Govindam, which has not been exposed to anyone. And the poet realizes, Bhagavan has come, and he falls at his feet and prays, Bhagavan, reveal yourself to all of us. We are so blessed. And Vishnu is so happy to reveal all the avatars about which Gita Govindam is about. And Bhagavan says, it is going to be like this. If I claim that I have written Atma Bodham, I have translated Atma Bodham, somebody else is going to come and claim this is not by Ramana and establish his authorship, says Bhagavan. That is the surrender. That it is God's command. It is God's command that this instrument speak like this, utter this word. What is there that this jada can do? That this inert substance can exhibit? Nothing. So the praise, that great problem of praise is handled by Bhagavan through the practice of surrender. And he teaches us, offer everything to me, offer everything to Ramana. Good, bad, middling, everything is Ramana's. Absolutely nothing. If he makes us speak, there is speaking. If he makes us breathe, there is breathing. If he makes us see, there is seeing. Otherwise, nothing is there. What is there? There is only freedom. There is only being surrendered. Be surrendered and Be free, says Bhagavan. Surrender, then the trouble of fame and its clutches is not there. Now, that is Guru Kripa. When that process is sidestepped by the modern intellect, when the bhakti is sidestepped, when that faith is sidestepped by the modern intellect, and we embark on the journey of doubt and clearance of doubt, that is where we get into trouble. And that is where Bhagavan says in verse number 39, even if you are having Advaita with everything, don't have Advaita with Guru. Always treat that it is by Guru's Kripa that you have been saved. It is by Guru's Kripa that you have learned A. It is by Guru's Kripa you have learned B. It is by Guru's Kripa you have learned Atma Vicharam. It is by Guru's Kripa you could do even one who am I. Then let Guru release you into the self. Don't claim anything. Let Advaita be blessed to you by Guru, is the verse number 39 which we are going to see. And what dire need is there for that? Because the intellect can fool itself. Being such a puny person, we will assume that we will claim great things for ourselves. And when the actual challenge is put to us by Ishvara in a small thing, we will get defeated. We will not be able to cross it. Because essentially tapas is not there. Essentially faith is not there. We have dropped faith early and we have taken to the path of doubt. Yet we claim great things for fame. So that imbalance in the intellect, which has lost its support of faith, is a terrible, terrible phase indeed, which we are going to see in the next verse, 38th verse. To avoid that, just like the Guru of Sadashiva called him and told him that you are shutting down everybody. When are you going to shut up? And that made him shut up. We should always remember that Bhagavan is present within us as the Atma. When we are inquiring, whenever thought of another comes, whenever thought of fame comes, one should never go after that. In inquiry, one should properly understand that faith is a very dangerous, fame is a very dangerous pleasure which can cloud one's eyes, which can cloud one's journey. And even one thought wasted there should be treated as millions of years. How much Sadashiva should have blamed himself for the days of arguments and winning, you can imagine. Once you come to Brahmajnana, one thought of fame, how much it has distanced you from Brahmajnana, you will feel. And that great feeling, and the sadhakas should avert that danger. That feeling has only driven him to write this verse. And that care for us from Guru, from Bhagavan, has made him translate it and put it into such a big work as Ulladu, Narpadu, Anubandham. That each one of us should take care that we don't run after the fame, run after numbers, run after even approval from one person. We should be alert that when the mind says that will there be so many favorable ticks to my Facebook posting, will there be some favorable remarks, oh what a wonderful satsang, what a nice way you have conducted, everything is clear. Now when that is posted, what is the reaction that comes? Now let's see for a moment, let us see the other side of this situation, that can we avoid our name appearing in front of the world? There is an incident that one of the devotees of Bhagavan has come up with a scriptural work. I am not sure, it must be a praise on Bhagavan. But when the publication is to be done, he specifically says, "Oh Bhagavan, let my name not appear as the author. Let my name not appear in the place that so and so is the author. Because is it not that God alone who is writing everything?" Then Bhagavan says to him, The desire for your name not to appear is also indication that you still value fame, is that you still have some regard, some valuation for the respect or disrespect of others. Therefore, the complete detachment is don't bother whether your name is there or not there. You just go and abide in the self. If the people feel that you have returned and they put Thursday satsang to be conducted by Nandakumar, if I say it should not be put, then that is also indication that one still values these numbers. One has not come into the self. To abide in the self means one is not this whole representation to others and their approval and continuing approval in the form of fame is not at all existing. Only when the ego arises, this world and its fame and infamy, they arise. If the ego is subsided into the source, then this whole game is gone. So the two methods of overcoming the clutches of fame, one is offering everything to Bhagavan, everything to Ishvara, who has written the script. We are merely not even instruments. That instrument is also completely operated by God. So there is nothing to claim. Or use the vichara completely and eliminate the least thought. There was one query during the discussions. One of them had put that, can we deliberately espouse shame? Can we deliberately espouse infamy? And it was from another group that the question was raised. It was raised in a different way, that unless you stand up and take shame, you are not a real Atmavachari. Some such challenge was there. So from that the question arose that do we have to deliberately espouse shame so that we are able to fight the fame? And the answer is a clear no. Though there is an incident from Bhagavan which is also quoted for this, quite unfairly so according to me, but we'll go through the incident and we will see why espousing shame is not required, though one should not run away from it. The incident is that one of the earlier devotees, quantum disciples of Bhagavan, called Perumal Swami, he has gone and published a book which contains a lot of negative information on Bhagavan. And Bhagavan quite humorously says, it appears that Perumal Swami has published this book and you guys, you are all quoting praise after praise in this hall. Now I want you to go and get that book and come and read it in front of me. In fact, you go and get that book and have it sold in front of the ashram gate, he says, so that only the true seekers will come and I will be freed of so many casual and shallow seekers. Something like that he says. And the publication runs into trouble because of lack of funds, and Bhagavan says in another incident, it appears he has run out of funds, go and give some funds. Now, this may appear very favorable to the questioner in that group, as though Bhagavan is saying, espouse shame. No, it's not like that. It is that when shame is present, whether rightly or wrongly, one should not run away from that. One need not, because the whole world is illusory, the fame is illusory, so is the shame. What is there to run away from? So, in my own life, the experience had been that I had felt very ashamed with myself the way I had taken up my life for a long period of time, for 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 years of time. And one thing for me was that had become the only thing in my life, and that helped me focus on the spiritual part after some time. That after some time of the shame not being good enough to hold me, Once it started its hold on me, then it helped me keep myself in the sadhana. But should I, as an experiencer of that in my own life that has happened, should I now place that as that everybody should call themselves like if not some real incident, but like Muruganar, who calls himself like a dog. I am lesser than a dog, he says, ashamed that, and Shiv Prakasham Pillai says, your Upadeshas are so glorious that how can I, such a low one, ever practice it, says Shiv Prakasham Pillai. Now, such lowly feeling, is it necessary to be espoused? Absolutely not. No, doesn't matter what path you have taken. Those things are all not necessary. Why are we sincere? Why are we able to hold on to sadhana? Not because of shame, not because of this or that, but because self is eternal. Because Bhagavan is eternal. Why we are able to have sincerity in sadhana? Not because of any trouble we have had. Your life should be full of trouble. You should come through all these sorrows. You should come through the valley of shame. No, absolutely not. Why does a sadhaka remain sincere? It is because Bhagavan is ever present. It is because the self is ever present. It is never going to leave us till we get realized. We don't need to have this or that trouble for us to turn towards the self. That the self is there. That it is the true happiness. It is the true love for all. It is the that consciousness which has no division. It is the Atma. That is the only reason why we should continue our quest. Not because of some trouble that has come and somebody held on because of trouble and all that. So, Atma Vicharam is free of all these requirements. Surrender is free of all these requirements. Only troubled people will get through. All that should not be posited even by those who have gone through. Because why did they come through? Not because of trouble, but because God is God, because self is self. That is the only thing we need to share. That Atma can protect you, Atma can take you to the highest state without fail. Do not fall prey to anything, to the outside world, including this last barrier, this terrible barrier called fame, as posited by Sadashiva Brahmendra, and as translated so for us, that do not fall prey to the vicissitudes of the approval from the world, the chapale, the applause, which is going to die away and leave you feeling the same discontent again. Put away all your discontent directly to the self. And the approval from the self, the aham iti sakshat atmarupena bhati, the spurana, when Bhagavan allows you to be in touch with this spurana, that is real fame. That is being applauded by the Guru. Oh, you have come. Join me. Be with me. You are not apart from me. Let us practice Atma Ucharan for 10 minutes. Namo Ramana. Namo Ramana.
Namo Ramana, sir. Prostrations to Ramana, shining as a self in all beings. By the infinite grace of the self manifest as Ramana, we have had the great joy of dwelling upon Bhagavan's teachings in the Anubandham to Ulladu Narpadu, and also to practice the session of self-inquiry stemming from that Mananam. This is a very beautiful journey on which Nandakumarji took us. Beautiful because it's so significant to every one of our lives, and it's a huge arena of meditation, manana. It covers such a large area of all our lives. And Nandakumarji very beautifully touched upon 4 significant aspects. He, first of all, gave us a glimpse of the total detachment, or what can one say? We cannot even call it detachment. How a Jivan Mukta is totally untouched by blame and praise is one point which he brought out to us. And we see in Bhagavan's life, Bhagavan of course said that when a flower blossoms, it doesn't send out invitations. The bees come of their own accord. And then when the bees come, it doesn't say no to the bees either. It neither sends invitations nor says no to the bees which come and take the nectar. The blossoming is natural. And Bhagavan, we have seen, totally unconcerned about his name, about who came, who did something. If someone was throwing stones at him in Patal Lingam also, he was unconcerned. If somebody wanted to praise him, in fact, he may have desisted sometimes from being praised. He did tell Annamalai Thambiran, there is no need to do puja to this body. He did that. But there are devotees who have said that they did Pada puja to him during Skandashram days, and later they were not allowed to do it. We do not know the experiences which he allowed each and every person, depending on what was the requirement of that person. And then Nandakumarji also touched upon, that is how it is, that Jivan Mukta, everything is what Nandakumarji said in the end, it is like the Atma, it is pure love. It is pure love. Anything which a Jivan Mukta does is out of pure love. Or that is even a love, we say pure love because it is totally unconditional. It is totally spontaneous. It is totally natural. There is no motive whatsoever linked to it. So this is something which is, say, even if Bhagavan said, why don't you keep some book blaming me, there's no motive behind that. Or if he says, all right, if he could write Ramana Puranam on top of each page of Muruganar's poem on him, on the lines of Shiva Puranam, people may wonder, how is he writing his own name over there? How could he sing Ramana Sadguru? He says, is Ramana the 6-foot body? Why should I not praise the self? So there is total disidentification, something which is not possible for us to understand or evaluate with the mind. But then again, from our perspective, where are the dangers was also very beautifully touched upon. The need for praise because of discontent, or one may say because of lack of fullness in oneself. There is always bound to be discontent. Ego cannot be satisfied because ego is something which is incomplete. It is illusory. It requires support. It constantly requires support. So Bhagavan here is pointing out the danger of seeking any kind of support whatsoever. And through our years of interactions, Nandakumar ji would often point out that praise is not, fame is not something which needs to come from outside. Applause is not something which needs to come from outside. Applause is something which we seek from ourselves also. We want to do well. We are very, very disappointed or ashamed of failure. The subtler our sensitivities, we ourselves are ashamed of our own failure. Nobody else may know about it. We ourselves are subtly happy when we are able to do something right. So this applause and which we seek from ourselves is the very, very, very subtle identification, and that is what rises up as thought. Every thought is either an applause that we are giving ourselves, or we are shaming ourselves for something, saying this was not right, or we are saying this was right. Every thought of ours is a seeking of fame in that sense. And to say, to go through shame or a negative experience, perhaps Bhagavan subtly indicated to the devotees, because all of us as devotees, we also revel in the fame of our Guru. We revel in the good name of our Guru. We feel thrilled when Bhagavan is praised. We feel very, very uncomfortable if somebody is not respecting Bhagavan in some way or the other. If we feel that Bhagavan is not being depicted properly or Bhagavan is not being regarded or revered, it disturbs us. So Bhagavan is actually addressing that aspect of the devotees which is subtly reveling in the glory of the Guru also, and praising itself perhaps for having such a Guru. Even that subtlest part of the ego, Bhagavan may be addressing in this. And it's very subtle, as Nandakumarji, another thing which he pointed out, it's very subtle. It could come in a negative form also. Very often in our interactions, whenever somebody says, in our group, when somebody says, oh, I didn't do this right, and we have a code word for it, after a few minutes we say, well, what's happening? Why are you going on saying that you made a mistake? And the person comes back with a smile and says, I think it's the mind seeking attention. So the negative ego, this was told by Yatishwaranandaji to my mother, saying negative ego is as much as dangerous as a positive ego. So don't develop a negative ego. Don't say that I am not good, or develop sense of shame consciously. Because everything is an attachment, an identification, a thought. That was a danger again which was pointed out to us. And it can be very subtle because the need to express, even the simple need to express, as Nandakumarji said, just the need to express. One may not even be very much conscious of somebody else, many people reading it, or just a need to express. One of the great people whom I was interacting with, he had suggested something that I could write, a concept I could write on. And when I was discussing that concept with him, I said, but this part of it, I don't think I can publish it in the Ramana way, because I'm so used to writing for the Ramana way. And he immediately said, why are you thinking in terms of publication? I told you to write it as a manana. I'm not telling you publish it or don't publish it. If it gets published, it's okay. If it doesn't get published, it's okay. I just had this discussion with you. I thought it would be a good manana for you to write. And he said, when I would write anything, I would just put it at the Guru's feet, finished. I don't think about it also after that. If I write anything, why do you think of everything in terms of, oh, will this get published? Is it okay to get published? Who will read it? So it can be that subtle. That was the indication which came, and it's a vast arena. But as I said, Nandakumarji covered these points for us very beautifully. The fact of the Jivan Mukta being totally free, the fact that a negative sense of ego can also be the same seeking of fame, and that it is very subtle, and that the way out of it is through surrender and self-inquiry. And finally, I would like to just recall one story which Kanakamma shared with us in this context. It was she was very kind enough to attend most of our national seminars. She would intently look at our dance dramas, and then she would discuss it in detail with us afterwards. And just like that, not that this, she was saying, you could have presented this. I do not know why. I don't now remember why she gave that story. She said, this is one incident you have not presented and you can present. And she gave the story. She said there was a devotee, I think her name was Rajamal, who was a great artist, a painter, and she had drawn a floor drawing, which is called a kolam, a white floor drawing of a peacock in front of the gentleman's cottage. And Bhagavan would walk that way, and if we can see it in the archival film also, he would call to the white peacock in that area, and the white peacock would come, and Bhagavan would have some puffed rice and all offered to the white peacock. And on that day, the white peacock was hesitant to come, did not want to come near at all. Then finally Bhagavan said, oh, are you afraid because you think there is another white peacock which has come? That is not a real peacock, don't be afraid. Then the white peacock came and had his puffed rice. And then Bhagavan said, Kanakamma, he said, see how beautifully she has drawn this. It looks so realistic that the peacock feels another peacock has come. Artists who are so sensitive, who are capable of such beautiful representations through their art, are very close to self-knowledge. But unfortunately, they will not seek self-knowledge. They will only seek fame. And Kanakamma told us this at a very important juncture, maybe in the beginning itself, as a warning, like this verse from Anubandham, that we should be very, very careful in this area. And as Nandakumarji said, it's not necessarily only if we are capable that we seek fame. We are constantly wanting people to approve of what we are doing. Or if we don't even want another's approval, the rise of thought itself is a kind of approval that the ego is seeking. And through self-inquiry only, that can be erased. Through the surrender of every thought, through self-inquiry. It is a beautiful revelation to us once again, and once again a reiteration from Bhagavan, a warning to be alert to the rise of thought in any form, and to surrender it through inquiry by His grace. Om Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramana.